Audible as well as visible.
Yes.
Okay.
So good morning to everyone. Once again, we are on the second session of second day of the FDP, that is 11th January. We are proceeding towards the second day on the FDP of data science and statistics. I request all the participants to please mute themselves. Dr. Mani Gupta, please mute yourself. All are requested to please mute. You can unmute yourself only when you want to ask a question. Otherwise, it creates a problem for the speaker. A lot of noise is there. This is an online mode. So I would like to welcome Sir Dr. Praveen Kumar Mishra. He is Assistant Professor at the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at Dr. Shakuntala Mishra National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow. Sir has 16 to 17 years of teaching experience in the field of statistics, and currently he is working in data science and machine learning implementation of various algorithms. He has very good research in this field, and we are thankful to you, sir, for sparing your time and delivering lecture in this FDP on data science. Over to you, sir. You may please proceed. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Anuradha. And I think we should start directly to the presentation. Just a second. I think I don't have right to present right now. It is not active.
Just 1 minute, sir.
Okay.
Please give me 1 minute. Sir, you can now share.
Okay, let me open my slide first. I think it is not open right now. Just give me a minute. Is it visible to all of you?
Yes. Yes, sir, it is visible.
And one more thing I should do initially. Is it in PPT mode, presentation mode?
It is in presentation mode. It is not in slideshow mode.
Okay, slideshow mode. Okay. Just a second. I think I should stop sharing and again.
You need not to stop sharing. You can put it in slideshow mode directly, or you just put it in slideshow and then you share that screen.
Okay, first I. Just a second. Let start. Now I think it is perfect.
Yes, sir, it is perfect now.
Okay. Okay. And it is moving also.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
moving.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, good morning, everyone. This lecture is on introduction to decision trees, random forest, and logistic regressions. All the topics are that means interconnected to each other. So, first of all,
Excuse me, I think your camera is off.
okay. Just a second. It is on.
Yeah, now it is perfect.
Okay. So I think I should again
It is
start the
visible. Don't do anything.
presentation is visible to all of you,
Yes.
but it is not on my screen. On my
No,
screen, all
Now
of
it
you,
is not
now,
available.
now it's not visible.
all of you are visible, but screen is not. It is visible to all of you right now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's visible now, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. So I will not do any experiment furthermore, and I will start the presentation. It's about introduction to decision trees, random forest, and logistic regression. So uh, basically, this presentation includes the following topics like 1 second. So concept of decision trees. Then after giving the concept of decision trees, we will discuss the use of decision trees to classify the data. Then there are some basic algorithms to build the decision tree and some examples, illustrations. Then the very important concept, which is entropy. All of you, those who have means from science background and having physics in their graduation, so they have encountered with this concept, a concept of entropy. Entropy was discussed, but it is in a different means form here in computer science, machine learning, and information theory. Then there is some mathematical formulation for entropy. Then how to calculate the entropy for a data set. And then these are the algorithms, decision tree algorithms. We will discuss ID3, CART, and C4.5. We will discuss in later stage of this lecture. So, the basic concept of
ये जो
uh,
जिसमें
who's speaking in between.
Everyone, please mute yourself.
So the basic concept of classification. First of all, we should discuss what is classification. So classification is the separation of or ordering of objects or things into classes. When like if the classes are created without looking at the data, or we can say non-empirically, the classification is called a priori classification. If, however, the classes are created empirically by looking at the data, the classification is called posterior classification. In most literature or classification, it is assumed that the classes have been deemed a priori, and classification then consists of training the system. When a new object is presented to the trained system, it is able to assign the object to one of the existing classes. So this approach is also called supervised learning. Some techniques are available for posterior or unsupervised classification also, uh, that we will discuss in later stage. Now, basic concept of decision tree. A decision tree is an important data structure known to solve many computational problems. uh, it is a very popular classification method that results in a flowchart like structure, tree structure, where each node denotes a test on attribute value and each branch represents an outcome of the test. The tree leaves represents the classes. So this is the basic decision tree. You can see Decision tree, like here, there is an attribute A 0 1 0 0 1 1, then there is attribute B, and there is another. So we can we can have this type of a structure. Suppose we have to classify A. If it is 0, then go to B, and so on. So this type of structure you have all see. Suppose we have considered a decision tree where values of any attribute is binary only. The decision tree is also possible where attributes are of continuous type. Now some characteristics of decision tree. Uh, a decision tree may be an array where the value of n is greater than or equal to 2. There is a special node called root node. This is all nodes drawn with circle or ellipse are called internal nodes. Then all nodes drawn with rectangular boxes are called terminal nodes or leaf nodes. Now, edges of node represents the outcome for a value of the nodes. In a path, a node with the same level is never repeated. Decision tree is not unique as different ordering internal nodes can give different decision trees. So decision tree and classification task next. Decision tree helps us to classify data. Internal nodes are some attributes and edges are the values of attributes. External nodes are outcome of this classification. So such a classification in fact made by posing questions starting from the root node to each terminal node. So decision tree and so this is the example where some species are there, then their body temperature, skin cover means what type of skin they are having. Now give births, it is in yes or no, aquatic creature or then aerial creature, has legs, hibernates, and what is the class? So what are the class label of dragon and shark? So this type of classification we can do with. Now vertebrate classification, suppose a new species is discovered as follows. Suppose this is Gila monster. So body temperature is cold, skin cover scale, gives birth, no, aquatic creature, no, aerial creature, no, has legs, yes, hibernates, yes. No, what is the class? So decision tree can be inducted based on the data is as so body temperature warm, so it gives birth, then yes, then it will be a mammal. Not gives birth, so it is non-mammal. Body temperature cold, it will be non-mammal. So it can be classified like this. So from the above example, it shows how we can solve a classification problem by asking series of questions about the attributes. Each time we receive an answer, a follow-up question is asked until we reach a conclusion about the class label of the test. The series of questions and their answers can be organized in the form of a decision tree. As hierarchical structure consisting of nodes and edges. Now, once a decision tree is built, it is applied to any test to classify it. So now we have mathematical type of definition. Given a database, suppose a database is given, so the values of this database are denoted by this suppose database. This database is denoted by D, and the components of this database are T1, T2, and Tn. where ti denotes a tuple, means the value of I varies from 1 to n, which is defined by a set of attributes a1, a2, and an, also given a set of class C, where C1, C2, and Ck. A decision tree capital T is tree associated with D, which is database, that has following properties. Now, what are the properties? Each internal node is labeled with an attribute AI. Each edge is labeled with a predicate that can be applied to the attribute associated with the parent node of it, and each leaf node is labeled with a class Cj. In principle, there are exponentially many decision trees that can be constructed from a given database, also called training data. Some of the tree may not be optimum, and some of them may give inaccurate results. Now there are two approaches. First one is known as greedy strategy approach. First one is this greedy strategy approach. This is a top-down recursive divide and conquer. Then modification of greedy strategy are ID3, C4.1, and CART algorithm. So this is the algorithm for building a decision tree. All of you are aware. Suppose input D, that is training data set, then output a decision tree. What are the steps? If all tuples in D belongs to some class Cj, add a leaf node labeled Cj and return. So this is the flowchart. Select an attribute AI so that it is not selected twice in the same branch. Then partition this D1, D2, DP based on P different values of AI in D. For each dk belongs to D, create a node and add an edge between D and dk with label as AI attribute. For each dk belongs to T, build a decision tree. So, and then stop. So this is the algorithm. Build decision tree build T algorithm must provide a method for expressing an attribute test condition and corresponding outcome for different attribute types. So this is the simplest case of node splitting A, PV1, PV2 means variable, and this suppose gender male, female. So the test condition for binary and attribute generates only two outcomes. Now, nominal attribute, since nominal attribute can have many values, its test condition can be expressed in two ways, a multi-way split, a binary split. Multi-way split outcome depends on number of distinct values for the corresponding attribute like marital status, single, married, divorced. So it is a multi-way split. In my binary split, by grouping attribute values, marital status, single, married, then marital status married, single, divorced, or marital status single, married, divorced. So only two way splitting is possible. Then numerical attributes. For numeric attribute with discrete or continuous values, a test condition can be expressed as a comparison test set. For binary outcome, suppose attribute is greater than or greater than new, or attribute is less than or equal to new. In this case, decision tree induction must consider all possible split positions. Now a range query, it is a little bit of mathematical type of thing. Now we have to build a decision tree for the following data. So consider following data. There are 15 persons, gender is given, height is given, and class is given short, medium, right, tall. So there are three classes: short, medium, and tall. Attributes are gender, in gender, male or female. Attribute, height, 1.5 to 2.5. It is ranges from 1.5 to 2.5. So to build a decision tree, we can select an attribute in two different orderings like gender and height, height and gender. Further, for each ordering, we can choose different ways of splitting. Different instances are shown in the approach. One is gender and height. So gender, then we divide it by female and male. If it is female, then height is less than 1.8, then it will be short. Height ranging from 1.8 to 2.0, it will be medium. Then in case of male, height ranging from 1.8, less than 1.8 short, 1.8 to 2.0 medium, and greater than 2.0 it will be tall. So we can classify it like this. This is further classification. In case of female, it is the set. We have taken all females in a single table from here, and males in a single table from here, then classified on the attribute on the basis of attribute height. Height less than 1.8 and 1.8 to 2.0. So all those having height less than 1.8 in this table, and all those females having height in between 1.8 to 2.0. So and those are in this table, and having height less than 1.8, they are short, and having height 1.8 to 2.0, they are medium. Similarly, in the case of males, we have taken all the males in this table and their sequence, then the height measurement and the classification: medium, medium, short, and greater than greater than 2.0 is tall, 2.1 is tall, 1.95 is tall. So as per this classification, take the height, then 1.8, less than 1.8, only one entry is there, 1.7. So 8 number person is male, and 1.7 it is short, so it is classified as short. Then ranging from 1.8 to 2.0, there are 3 entries, person number 2, 6 and 12, and height having 2, 1.85, 1.95, all are medium. Then there are 2 entries, you can see here there are 2 entries, 2.2 and 2.1. So they will be classified as tall. Now again, they have taken height and gender. So firstly, they have taken height as the root node and height less than 1.8. So 1.8 less than 1.8, all persons having height less than 1.8 are here, and all are short. So they are classified as short. Similarly, height from 1.8 to 2.0. You can see 2.0, 1.9, 1.88, 1.85, 1.8, 1. All are less than 2.0 and between 1.8. So all are here, and they will be classified as medium. Similarly, here height is greater than 2.0. So they are classified as tall. So these are 2 approaches for classification of on the basis of means gender and height. Now the which I have already told you, the very important concept which is known as concept of entropy. So concept of entropy: if a point represents a gas molecule, then which system has the more entropy? So here you see the molecules are concentrated here only, 2-3 outliers are here, then this is little bit more scattered, then this one is very much scattered. How to measure this delta S upon delta S is equal to delta Q upon T. So how can you measure? So more ordered and less entropy. This is the figure, more ordered and less entropy. Means this figure will have less entropy, then less ordered and higher entropy. More organized, less probable, and less organized, more probable. So here what is more probable means randomness. Now there are two sheets showing the tabulation of marks obtained in a course as shown. Which tabulation of marks shows the good performance of the class? How can you measure the same? Entropy and its meaning. Entropy is an important concept used in physics in the context of heat and thereby uncertainty of the states of matter. At later stage, with the growth of information technology, entropy becomes an important concept in information theory also, I have already discussed. To deal with the classification job, entropy is an important concept which is considered as an information theoretic measure of uncertainty. This is very important. It is an information theoretic measure of the uncertainty contained in training data set. The entropy concept in information theory first coined by Claude Shannon. Shannon theory is very much famous. The first time it was used to measure information content in messages. According to his concept of entropy, presently entropy is widely being used, a way of representing messages for efficient transmission by telecommunication systems. Now, measure of information content. People in general are information hungry. Everybody wants to acquire information from different sources like newspaper, library, nature, fellows, etc. Now think how a crime detector do it to know about the crime from crime spot and criminals. Kids annoyed their parents asking questions. All of us face this situation when kids ask so many questions, and sometimes we don't have answer. How to satisfy them. In fact, fundamental thing is that we gather information asking questions, and decision tree induction is no exception. We may note that information gathering may with certainty or uncertainty. Both cases are possible. Take a simple example, guessing a birthday of your classmate. So there are 365 days. So there are 365 days in a year. So the guess or probability will be 1 by 365. Now, whereas guessing the day of his or her birthday, so there are 7 days in a week. So the probability of a certain day is 1 by 7. This uncertainty we may say varies from 0 to 1 because this probability always lie between 0 and 1. I think all of you are aware. Take another example, a question related to event with eventually or impossibility will be answered with 0 or 1 uncertainty. Does sun rises in the east? The answer is with 0 uncertainty, means it is a natural truth. Will mother give birth to a male baby? Answer is 1 by 2 uncertainty. If there a planet like Earth in the galaxy, so have you seen any planet? Are anyone aware about any planet which is exactly like Earth? So answer with extreme uncertainty. We don't know. So suppose there are small m. Suppose there are small m distinct objects which we want to identify by asking a series of yes or no questions. Now further we assume that these m is an exact power of 2. Exact power of 2. Say m equal to 2 raised power n, where n is greater than or equal to 1. So the definition of entropy will be the entropy of a set of m distinct values is minimum number of yes or no questions needed to determine an unknown values from these m possibilities. So how can we calculate the minimum number of questions? The question arises, how can we calculate the minimum number of questions, that is entropy? So now there are two approaches. We have two approaches. First is, suppose there is a quiz related to guess a city out of 8 cities, which are as follows. There are 8 cities overall. There are 8 cities. These are Bangalore, Bhopal, Bhubaneswar, Delhi, Hyderabad, and so on. There are 8 cities. The question is, which city is called City of Joy? Which city is called City of Joy? So there are two approaches. First is brute force approach and second one is clever approach. So brute force approach, we can ask, is it city X? If yes, stop. Else ask next question. This is the brute force approach. So in this approach, we can ask such questions randomly, choosing one city at a time. As a matter of randomness, let us ask the questions not necessarily in the order as they are in it is here. So first we ask, is it the city Bangalore? The respondent says no. Is it the city Bhubaneswar? No. Is it the city Bhopal? Is the city Delhi or Hyderabad or Madras, or it is now actually Chennai, so Mumbai. So when we get answer as no for 7 questions, the obvious answer after 7 questions will be yes. No need to ask further questions. Answer is already out by the question number 7. When the answer for 7 questions is no, then 8th one will be yes. If asked randomly each of these questions, possibilities is equally likely and that possibility will be 1 by 8. So the average number of questions can be asked to get the answer. It will be maybe possible that after first question you will get the answer. Maybe possible after 2 questions you will get the answer. Maybe possible, and each question will have the equal probability 1 by 8. So the average probability or average number of questions will be asked will be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, 7, and for this also it will be 7. So it will be total 4.375 questions, right? 4.3 on an average. That means on an average you have to ask uh, 4 questions or 5 questions. Now there is another approach that is called binary search or clever approach. In this approach, we divide the list into 2 halves. Pose a question for half and repeat the same recursively until we get the answer as yes. So is it Bangalore, Bhopal, Bhubaneswar, Delhi? No. Is it Madras, Mumbai? No. Is it Hyderabad? No. So after fixing 3 questions, we are able to crack the answer. So approach 2 is considered to be the best strategy because it will invariably find the answer and will do so with minimum number of questions on the average than any other strategy. Approach 1 occasionally do better when you are lucky enough. So it is no coincidence that if there are 8 questions, so 8 can be represented as 2 raised power 3 and the minimum number of yes or no questions needed are 3. Similarly, if m equal to 16, then 16 can be written like this, 2 raised power 4, and we can argue that we need 4 questions to solve the problem. If m is equal to 32, then m is then 5 questions, then and if m equal to 256, then 8 questions will be required to solve the problem. So now the minimum number of yes or no questions needed to identify an unknown object is m equal to 2 raised power n. That means equally likely possible object is n. So n questions are required. If m is not a power of 2, now the means m cannot be expressed as the power of 2, then entropy of a set of small m distinct objects that are likely to be, it will be log m base 2. It can be calculated with the help of this. We know that the most conventional ways to code information is using binary bits. That is using either binary bits means using zeros or ones. So the answer to a question that can only be answered yes, no with equal probability can be considered as containing 1 unit information. 1 unit information means 1 bit information. So in other words, the unit of information can also be looked at as amount of information that can be coded using only zeros and ones. So now information coding, if we have 2 possible objects like male and female. So if we code 0 as female and 1 as male, so m equal to 2. That is 2 raised power n, or the value of n is 1 here. We can encode 4 possible objects, suppose 4 directions, east, west, north, south. So 0, 0 as north, 0, 1 as east, 1, 0 as west, and 1, 1 as south. So here m equal to 4, it will be 2 raised power n, where n is 2. Similarly, we can encode 8 values, say different colors are there. 8 colors are here, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. So we can code 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, then 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. So m is 8. It can be written like this, 2 raised power n, n equal to 3. Thus, in general, to code m values, each in a distinct manner, we need n bits such that m equal to 2 raised power n. So in this point, we can note that to identify an object, if it is encoded with bits, then we have to ask questions in an alternative way. For example, is the first bit is 0? Is the second bit is 0? Is the third bit is 0? And so on. Thus, we need n questions if m objects are there such that m equal to 2 raised power n. The above leads to an alternative and equivalent definition of entropy. The entropy of a set of small m distinct values is the number of bits needed to encode all the values in the most efficient way. So this is the alternative definition of entropy. Now, the situation arises when m is not equal to, it means it cannot be expressed as 2 raised power n form. M is not equivalent to 2 raised power n. So in the previous discussion, we have assumed that m, the number of distinct objects, is exactly a power of 2. That is m equal to 2 raised power n. For some n is greater than or equal to 1, and small m objects are equally likely. This is mere an assumption to make discussion simple. In the following, we try to redefine the entropy calculation in more general case, that is when m is not equal to 2 raised power n, and not necessarily m objects are equally probable. Equally probable means this, equally likely. Let us consider different instances of yes and no question game. There are 7 days: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, up to Saturday. We are to identify a sequence of k greater than or equal to 1, such values, each one chosen independently of others, that is, repetitions are not allowed. Note that if k is equal to 1, it is a type of game we have already dealt with. We denote the minimum number of yes and no questions needed to identify a sequence of k unknown values drawn independently from small m possibilities as MEK, the entropy in this case. In other words, MEK is the number of questions required to discriminate amongst m raised power k distinct possibilities. Here m equal to 7 in the first as stated in the game sequence of days. So k equal to 6. An arbitrary sequence may be like this. So it will be 7 raised power 6 total. This number possible sequence of 6 days. So 7e6, it can be written like this: log of, since this is a non-integer and the number of questions should be an integer, we can say 17 questions are required. So 7e6 equal to log of 7 raised power 6 base 2. In general, we can write it like this. MEK will be written like this: log of m raised power k and base 2. Now, alternatively, we can write this expression like this. It is a little bit of mathematical. Log of m raised power k base 2. This will lie in this range. If we divide it by this, will be treated like this. So this is how we can calculate the entropy in this case. The entropy of a set of m distinct objects is log m base 2, even when m is not exactly power of 2. We have arrived at a conclusion that E equal to log of m base 2 for any value of m irrespective of whether it is a power of 2 or not. Now suppose Pi is the probability that denotes the frequency, or here it is written frequency, it is probability with which ith of m objects occur, where it lies between 0 to 1 for all Pi, such that the total probability means P1 plus P2 plus P3 and so on. So it will be the sum of all probabilities will be 1 always. So suppose 4 objects A, B, C, D which occur with probabilities like this. With probabilities 1 by 2, 1 by 4, 1 by 8 and 1 by 8. So here m is 4, P1 is 1 by 2, P2 is 1 by 4, P3 is 1 by 8 and P4 is 1 by 8. So using 2-bit coding, we can represent A as 00, B as 01, C as 10 and D as 11. Also, the Huffman coding ABCD with frequencies this we can show 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1 and 0, 0, 0. So with the above representation, say if A is to be identified, then we need to examine only one question. For B, it is 2 and for C and D, it is 3. So the average run will be 1 by 2 into one question and then 1 by 4, sorry, 1 by 4 into 2 questions, because for B it is 2, then 1 by 8 into 3, that is because for C there are 3 questions required, and for 1 by 8 this is also 3. So 1.75 bits are required. This is the number of yes or no questions to identify any one of the 4 objects whose frequency of occurrences are not uniform. So this is simply in contrast of 2-bit encoding, where we need 2 bits, that is 2 questions on an average. It may be interesting to note that even with variable length encoding, there are several ways of encoding. Few of them are as follows, like A0, B11 or like this. The calculation of entropy for first case, it is 1.75. Then for this type of coding, it is 2. And for this type coding, it is 3. The above observation is also significant in the sense that it provides a systematic way of finding a sequence of well-known chosen questions in order to identify an object at a faster rate. Now, what is information content? If an object occurs with frequency P, the most efficient way to represent it with like this log 1 by P base 2 bits, like a which is occurring with frequency 1 by 2 is represented by 1 bit. B which occurs with frequency 1 by 4 is represented by 2 bits. Both C and D which occurs with frequency 1 by 8 are represented by 3 bits. Now we generalize the above understanding as follows. If there are small m objects, having frequencies P1, P2 up to Pm, then the average number of bits or questions that need to be examined of value, that is entropy, is the frequency of occurrence of ith value multiplied by the number of bits that need to be determined. So we take the summation from 1 to m, I going from 1 to m. So the theorem, the following result, if Pi denotes the frequencies of occurrence of m distinct objects, then entropy E can be calculated like this: E equal to this summation I going from 1 to n. Pi is what? It is written here like frequency, or it is probability. Log of 1 upon Pi, and the total probability or the sum of all the probabilities will always be equal to 1. So if all are equally likely, then we can take Pi is equal to 1 upon m, and E will be log m base 2. And if they are not equally likely, you will have some power here, k, like we have discussed earlier. It is a special case of that expression. So entropy of a training set, if there are, suppose there are k classes C1, C2, Ck, and Pi for I equal to 1 to k denotes the number of occurrences of classes Ci divided by the total number of instances, the frequency of occurrences Ci in the training set. Then entropy of the training set is denoted by E equal to minus I going from 1 to n Pi log Pi base 2. Here E is measured in bits of information. The above formula should be summed over the non-empty classes only, that is the classes which Pi is not equal to 0. Then this entropy E is always a positive quantity. E takes its minimum value 0 if and only if all the instances have the same class, that is the training set with only one non-empty class for which the probability is 1. Entropy takes its maximum value when the instances are equally distributed among k possible classes. In this case, the maximum value of E is log k base 2. Now we take this example, this data set. Consider this the OTPH data set showing in the following table with total 24 instances in it. So there are total 24 instances. Age 1, 1, 1, 6 are here for age 1. Then 1 and 2, then 2 and 3, and 3 and 3. Then eyesight, then astigmatic, use type, and classes. So specification of the attributes are as follows. The age, there are 3 categories: young, 2 is middle aged, and 3 is old. Then eyesight, for eyesight 1 and 2, there are 2 classifications, 1 and 2. For 1 it is myopia, and for 2 it is hypergeometropia. Astigmatic, no or yes, there are only 2 classes. Then use type frequent or less. Then class 1 contact lens, 2 normal glass, and 3 is nothing. In the OPTH database, there are 3 classes and 4 instances with class 1, sorry, with class 1, 5 instances, with class 2, 15, with class 3. Hence, entropy can be calculated for this. First will be 4 by 24 total and log of 4 by 24. Then minus times 5 by 24, 5 by 24, then minus 15 by, because there are 15 instances, 15 by 24 log of 2, 15 by 24. So when you calculate this, you will get this result 1.3261. This will be the entropy for this data set. Note the data of a training set implies the number of yes oblique no questions on the average needed to determine an unknown test to be classified. It is very crucial to decide the series of questions about the value of a set of attributes which collectively determine the classification. Sometimes it may take one question, sometimes more than one, many more. Decision tree induction helps us to ask such a series of questions. In other words, we can utilize entropy concept to build a better decision tree. So how entropy can be used to build a decision tree is our next topic of discussion. Uh, so I think I am taking just 5-10 minutes break, and then again I will continue. Slides are visible to all of you, I think, still.
Yes, sir, it's
No,
visible.
Okay,
Visible,
okay.
sir.
I think now it is in slideshow mode. So after discussing this entropy concept, now we'll discuss the algorithms which are used to build a decision tree. First is ID3 decision tree algorithm. It was given by
Sir,
Junior.
sorry to interrupt, but slide is still not visible.
Okay. Just wait. Just a minute. Just a minute. Is it visible right now?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll discuss the different algorithms which are used to build a decision tree. Please mute yourself, whoever is unmuted. So Kuhn 1986 introduced ID3 algorithm, a popular short form of iterative dichotomized tree decision trees from a set of training data. In ID3, each node corresponds to a splitting attribute and each arc is possible values of that attribute. At each node, the splitting attribute is selected to be the most informative among the attributes not yet considered in the path starting from the root. In ID3, entropy is used to measure how informative a node is. It is observed that splitting on any attribute has the property that average entropy of the resulting training subsets will be less than or equal to that of previous training set. ID3 algorithm defines a measurement of splitting called information gain to determine the goodness of split. This is very important. The attribute with largest value of information gain is chosen as the splitting attribute. In partitions into a number of smaller training sets based on distinct values of attribute under split. So now as we are dealing in terms of information gain. So what is information gain? We consider the following symbols and terminologies to define information gain. Suppose D denotes the training set of at any instant. Denotes the size means magnitude. This is mod of D, that means magnitude denotes the size of training data set. E of D denotes the entropy of training data set. The entropy of training data set will be like this, summation I going from K Pi log to Pi, where the training data set D has C1, C2 up to Ck. K are the distinct classes and Pi, what is Pi? It is the probability lying from 0 to 1 is the probability that any arbitrary tuple D belongs to class Ci. And this probability can be calculated like this: Pi is equal to Cid upon magnitude of D, where Cid is the set of tuples in class Ci. Suppose we want to partition D on some attribute A having m distinct values. What are these values? A1, A2 up to Am. Attribute A can be considered to split D into small m partitions. These partitions are D1, D2 up to Dm, where Dj contains those tuples in D that have outcome Aj of A. Now there is another concept, weighted entropy. The weighted entropy denotes E D suffix A. This for all partitions of D with respect to A, and it is given by E of A is equal to summation j going from 1 to m, then magnitude of dj, that means jth object, and E of dj. Now here the term dj upon d denotes the weight of jth training data set. So E D of A is expected information required to classify a tuple from D based on the splitting of A. Defining information gain. Our objective is to take A on splitting to produce an exact classification, also called pure, that is all tuples belong to one class. However, it is quite likely that the partitions is impure, that is they contain tuples from two or more classes. In that sense, ed suffix a is a measure of impurities or purities. A lesser value of eda implying more power the partitions are. Now, how we calculate the information gain? Information gain alpha AD. It is denoted by alpha AD for training set D. Splitting on the attribute A is given by alpha AD equal to E of D subtracted E of D A. So in other words, alpha AD gives us an estimation how much would be gained by splitting A. Means what is the gain by splitting A? The attribute A with the highest value of alpha should be chosen as the splitting attribute for D. Right? So the highest value of alpha means information gain. So the attribute having the highest value of alpha will be chosen as the splitting attribute. So information gain calculation, how we will calculate the information gain on splitting, that we had the data earlier. This was the data OPTH data set. So this we are considering again. Let us refer to OPTH data set discussed earlier. Splitting on age at the root level, it would give three subsets D1, D2 and D3. Three subsets will be there because there were three classes. The entropy of ED1, ED2 and ED3 of training data sets D1, D2 and D3, and corresponding weighted entropy will be ED1 age, then ED2 age and ED3 age are also shown alongside. The information gain alpha of age OPTH is then calculated to be 0.0394. And recall that the entropy of OPTH data set we have it was calculated 1.3261. It was already calculated in that data set. So if we information gain on splitting OPTH training data set, suppose we are please mute yourself, whosoever is unmuted. So if D1 is age 1, so in that case, all age 1 cases are taken here: eyesight, estimation, use type, class, and if we calculate ED1, so it comes 1.5, and if we calculate ED1 at age, so it comes 8 by 24 because there are 8 cases, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 cases and total 24 cases. And we calculate this 8 by 24 multiplied by this ED1. So it comes 0.5000. Then at age D equal to 2, at age D equal to 2, there are again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cases. So ED2 is coming here 1.2988 and ED2 age is 8 by 24 and multiplied by this quantity here. So it comes 0.4392. Then again we have to calculate ED3. ED3 is at age 3. So there are again 8 cases. So it is coming ED3 is 1.0613 and again E age D3 is 8 by 24 and multiplied. So it is coming. So alpha, that means the information gain will be 1.3261. 1.32 from where it is coming? From where it is coming? See, it is coming from here. It was calculated. Let me show you. Yes, this was the value of E. This was the value of E which was calculated, entropy, right? And so this we have quoted here. Recall the entropy of OPTH dataset. We have calculated E equal to this. And now we have calculated at different ages E age D1, E age D2 and E age D3. First one was excuse me. So you see first value was 0.5. This was D1 E age. Then we have calculated E2 age. Then we have calculated E3 here. And we will subtract all these values from this one and we will get the information gain alpha at age when we take age as attribute for splitting, right? Similarly, in the same way we can calculate the information gains when splitting the OPTH database on eyesight, because we have three more attributes: eyesight, astigmatic and use type. So the results are summarized below. Splitting attribute age, the value is this, alpha is this. Then splitting attribute as eyesight. So when we take I site, this is not minus here, right? It is not correct. It is I site, comma OPTH. Then it will come 0395. So there is not very big difference between alpha age and alpha I site. Then splitting attribute astigmatic, it is 0.3770, and splitting attribute as use type, it is coming 0.5488. So what was the criteria for splitting? The ID3 strategy of attribute selection is to choose uh, to split on attribute that gives greatest reduction in the weighted average entropy. That means the one that maximizes the value of information gain. So in this example with OPTH database, the largest value of information gain is alpha use time type comma OPTH. The value of that gain is this. So this is the largest value from all these values. This was 0.394, this was 0.395, and this was 0.3770, and this is the largest value. So the process of splitting on nodes is repeated for each branch of the evolving decision tree, and the final tree, which would look like is shown in the following slide. And calculation is rest calculation you can do. So this will be the final splitting of nodes, and final decision tree will be like this by using information gain. Now frequency table, how can you means form a frequency table for calculating alpha, that is information gain. Calculation of entropy for each table, hence information gain for a particular split appears, that means it is manually, it is very difficult. So as an alternative, we discuss a shortcut method of doing the same using a special data structure called frequency table. Now what is frequency table? Suppose X is X1, X2, Xn denotes an attribute with small n different attributes values in it for a given database D. And there are a set of classes, K classes, say C1, C2, Ck. Given this, a frequency table will look like this. These are X1, X2 up to Xi, Xn, and C1, C2 up to Ck. And here we count the frequencies. Number of rows are number of classes, number of columns are number of attribute values, and Fij, because there are I values here row wise and J values here from 1 to K, here 1 to N, are Fij is the frequency of class, assuming that mod of D means total number of values row wise and column wise, means sum of Fij will be total n, the number of total instances of D. So now here with reference of OPTS dataset and for attribute age, if we consider age as attribute, the frequency table will look like this. Class 1, age 1, there are 2 observations. Class 2, age 1, 2 observations. Class 3, there are 4 observations. Age 2, it is 1. So like this. So column sum is 8, 8, 8, and it will 24. So you can verify it from this side also. 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, 4. Then 2 plus 2, 4, 1, 5, and 4 plus 5, 6, 9, 6, 15, 15 plus 5, 20, and 24. And from this side also it is 24. So n equal to, there were 24 observations in that table. The weighted average entropy can be calculated from the frequency table like this. So This is the calculation. You can calculate it very easily, not a very difficult task. We can leave this. The information gain metric used in ID3 always should be positive and 0. It should be always in between. It should be in 0 and 1. It is always positive value because information is always gained. That is, purity is improved by splitting on an attribute. On the other hand, when a training set is such that there are k classes and the entropy of training set takes largest value, log k base 2, this is occurs when the classes are balanced. Then the information gain will be 0. This we can. Then the next algorithm, that is CART. So it is observed that information gained measured used in ID3 is biased towards the test with many outcomes. That is, it prefers to select attributes having a large number of values. So Friedman, Olshan and Stone in 1984 proposed an algorithm to build a binary decision tree, also called CART decision tree. CART decision tree stands for classification and regression tree. In fact, invented independently at the same time as ID3 in 84. ID3 and CART are two cornerstone algorithms spawned a flurry of work on decision tree induction. CART is a technique that generates a binary decision tree. That is, unlike ID3 in CART, for each node only 2 children is created. ID3 uses information gain as a measure of select the best attribute to split, whereas CART do the same but using the another measurement called Gini index. So in the previous algorithm, the criteria was decided on the basis of information gain, right? Here there is another concept which is called Gini index. It is also known as Gini index of diversity and is denoted by gamma. So now what is this Gini index of diversity? We will define it. Suppose D is our training set of size D. Size D means magnitude of this D, and C equal to C1, C2, Ck are the classes, be the set of K classifications, and A is what? A1, A2, AM. It is the attribute. It is the attribute with m different values of it. Like entropy measure in ID3, CART proposes Gini index as the measure of impurity of D. So it can be defined like this. Gini index G of D, it is 1 minus summation I going from 1 to k pi square. Where pi is the probability, our tuple D belongs to class Ci, and pi can be estimated like this: pi equal to Ci divided by D, where Cid denotes the number of tuples in D with class C. So it is the probability. That was earlier also, it was calculated like this. G of D measures the impurity of data set D. The smallest value of G of D is 0. which it takes when all classifications are same. It takes its largest value as 1 minus 1 by k. So it lies between this g of d lies between 0 and 1 minus 1 by k. So when the classes are evenly distributed between tuples, that is the frequency of each class is 1 by k. Suppose a binary partition of A splits D into D1, D2, then the weighted average Gini index of splitting denoted by GD of A is given by this. Since there are only two splits D1 and D2, so mod of D divided by D multiplied by G of D1. G of D1 will be calculated from here. Right? So, and mod of D2 divided by D, G of, then after calculating this G, after calculating this GA of D, we'll calculate gamma A of D. That means the gain. It is similar like we have calculated information gain in the previous algorithm. The binary partition D reduces the impurity, and the reduction in impurity is measured by gamma A of D. It will be G of D minus GA of D. So calculation is almost similar, which we have done in the previous algorithm. This gamma A of D is called Gini index of diversity. It is also called impurity reduction. The attribute that maximizes the reduction in impurity or equivalently has the minimum value of GAD is selected for attribute for the splitting. So there was a similar type of criteria when we were using the ID3 algorithm. Maximum information gain will be the criteria for splitting. So here gamma AD is which is called Gini index of diversity. It will be the measure for the attribute that maximizes the reduction in impurity, or equivalently the minimum value of GAD is selected for the attribute for split. So again, there is an example EMP data. Suppose we want to build decision tree for the data set EMP as given in the table. The age, there are three classes: young, middle aged and old. Then again for salary wise, low, medium, high. Then job, there are two classes: government and private. Performance, average, excellent. And class select, it is yes or no. So for the EMP data set, G of EMP, it will be 1 minus summation I going from 1 to 2 pi square. So it will be 1 minus . So let us consider the calculation of this GA employee for age, salary, job and performance. So age 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it will be young, middle, old, young, middle, young, old or middle, old. So it will be calculated like this. Then similarly G of age 2, age 3. So the best value of Gini index while splitting age is gamma age 3. This is the best value when we calculations are left here. Then similarly when we calculate the value of gamma for salary, it is the value 0.0084. It is left. Then G performance, gamma performance, out of these gamma salary D give the maximum value. Hence the attribute salary would be chosen for splitting will be subset M, H or L. So it can be noted that the procedure following information gain calculation, that is alpha AD, and the impurity reduction calculation are near about, means similar type of calculations are done for this algorithm also. There was the measure in ID3, it was the information gain, and here it is Gini's index. Calculations are almost similar, so it is left for your exercise. Then there is calculation for gamma using frequency table. It is also similar to that which was used in case of ID3 algorithm, like this, calculating gamma using frequency table for that OPTS data. These are calculated here. You can solve these values for your exercise. I will give this just after this lecture to all of you. It will be provided to you. So I think it's enough for this lecture. Lots of topics are left here still. So I will discuss those topics in next lecture. Please mute yourself so that I can speak.
இவன் காலேஜ்ல போய் கம்ப்ளைண்ட் பண்ணானா கூட நமக்கு அவன் என்ன சொல்றான் அறிவிச்சலன்னு தெரியாது. அங்க மேம்க்கு தெரிஞ்சா ஒரு ரியாக்ஷன் என்ன வருது.
Madam Kanagavali, please keep this in mind that you keep yourself muted while talking amongst yourself, please.
Anuradha ma'am, are you there?
Yes, I am here, sir.
Okay, I think I should stop here because enough is covered, but two topics are still left. So I will cover those topics while taking the lecture of association rule mining. So because it is a small topic, and I will cover these base classifier and random forest, and one algorithm is left. So I will cover in that lecture because already enough is covered in this lecture. So thank you so much for having patience, for listening to me. Thank you so much. We'll meet in the next lecture on Wednesday.
So should we take up questions? If there is any doubt.
Yes, yes.
If there is any doubt, then we can take up. Sir, I don't think so that there is any doubt.
Okay, thank you so much. I will meet tomorrow again.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. You can leave, and we will meet at 4:30 for a lecture by Professor Shalab. That would be the third lecture for the day. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'm very sorry for having these off-time lectures for first and second day. So means this is because of busy schedule of Professor Shalab. Actually, when I had discussed with him about the FDP, he was not the Dean Academics, but now he is the Dean Academics at Kanpur, IIT Kanpur. So that is why he is having very busy schedule. So that is why. Otherwise, means from tomorrow onwards we'll have 9 to 4:30 only, 9:30 to 4:30 only. Thank you so much everyone for joining.
Thank you, madam.